Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Prep Football Preview presented by FriendshipCars.com, our weekly high school football preview show. I'm Kenny Hawkins, along with, of course, Jesse Kroll. And we're headed into Week 10 in Tennessee, Week 9 in Southwest Virginia. And here are a few of the top football games that we're going to talk about on Friday night. We begin with Game 1. And is there anyone bigger than the Musket Bowl?
That's no surprise right there.
I mean, you've been playing it forever, 51 years, I think. I think this is the 51st between David Crockett and Daniel Boone. Let's begin with David Crockett. This is a series that basically has been even over the last 6 years. Crockett's won 3, Boone has won 3. Crockett won the last one. We were both there. We called this game last year, and it was still a close one. I think Crockett won by like 6 points.
And I think it's supposed to be expected to be the same way this year. I mean, what an absolute battle last year. It was fun to watch. I mean, obviously you've seen the broadcast highlights right now. We were on the call, and it was just an amazing time. And obviously the man right there running the ball, he ain't on the team anymore. So we'll look forward to this year's team. Crockett is coming off that loss to Westridge, but I really think – I'm not going to say they were supposed to lose that game because, if you ask Crockett, they say that they were, expected to win that game. Obviously they're not having the type of momentum they'd like coming into this one. But, I mean, they put up a fight against Westridge. That's all you can ask for. I mean, Jake Fox, he's good. But I think what you really got to look out for is number 4, Brendan Reed. I mean, the kid gets it done everywhere on the field. Whether he's running the ball, catching the ball, he's on the defensive side. I'm pretty sure he punts or he's on some type of special teams. I mean, the kid probably fills up the water coolers as well. I mean, the kid does it all over the field.
But here's the thing. Last time they played, West Ridge shut him down. I mean, Brendan didn't do anything in the game, and I thought that was really the biggest reason why West Ridge was able to get the win. In fact, after that game, Coach Chanley said it was probably the most dissatisfied he's ever been with this team. I never thought that you would hear him talk about effort from a Pioneer football team, but he said he didn't get it last time they played.
And I think maybe they're looking I wouldn't say they're looking forward, forward ahead because, Hayden Chanley doesn't have his kids like that. But, you're looking at the Musket Bowl, Daniel Boone, that's always a date circled on the calendar. And if Daniel Boone really wants to stop this team, they got the pieces to do it. I mean, they got the big boys up front. Yeah. They do have the hog mollies. That defensive line is stout. I mean, I was talking to Casey Marler in the parking lot today. Obviously, he's Crockett till he dies, but he was worried about that defensive line, and that offensive line for Crockett isn't nothing to mess with either. I mean, they know what they're doing. They got those big boys up front as well. Obviously, they've been paving the way for people like Brendan Reed and a couple other guys up front, and protecting Jake Fox. But if Daniel Boone is going to win this game, it's going to be with that defensive line. I mean, you got Will Hamlin, you got Henry Hamlin. And I know we're kind of flip flopping back here, and we're supposed to be talking about Crockett, but I think we're just diving right into it. But once you get in the trenches, and both teams are physical. They both love to run the ball,
and both coaches want that.
Exactly.
I mean, talking with both of them this week, both coaches want that. You talked about Reed. The kid has almost 800 yards this year, almost 300 yards in passing, almost 180 yards in receiving. He's accounted for, I think, 19 touchdowns, 13 of those rushing, 3 passing, 1 receiving, and 2 interception returns. He's also been named the Employee of the Month. No, I'm playing. So you're right. I mean, everything basically starts and stops with Brendan Reed. And if David Crockett, if they did anything, Daniel Boone, then you probably watch this tape to see how you stop it.
Oh, 100%. And there's no knock on the other kids, but if you stop number 4, this offense is going to crumble just a bit. As I mentioned, Fox, he's got a solid arm. He's a good option under center. You got kids on the outside like Jordan Williams, Isaiah Lang, Aiden Clark, those kids. So, flip side of the coin, if you're able to get Brendan Reed going, you kind of lure in Daniel Boone, and if he's having a good night, and then they, obviously want to air it out, you can do that. But first of all, I think you really have to get this running game going, and that's easier said than done. Like I said, against a Daniel Boone team that has so much firepower up front, and they got some big kids. And I'm not saying, hey, these are big high school kids. No, these are kids that are going to be able to play at the next level. I mean, the offensive linemen on the other side of the ball are absolutely huge as well. Just stopping by their practice, and there's no knock on David Crockett's offensive line because obviously they're good. But it's just, I was kind of baffled with how, especially, Will Hamlin. I was interviewing him this past week, and I'm like, this kid's big as a high school kid. So I'll be interested to see where those kids go, taking that next step in their college career, I should say their football career, looking at college. But it just is – it's one of those games I think it's going to be old school type football, and I think that's what both these coaches love. Obviously, Hayden Shanley went to Daniel Boone. Jeremy Jenkins obviously knows so much about,
where he was coached by Jeremy Jenkins.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so many sublines to this. It's just so funny. Crockett's head coach played for Boone, where he was a star, and while he was there, Jeremy Jenkins was his coach. A lot of his coaching comes from his former coach, Jeremy Jenkins. It's almost kind of a mirror image of the two. And when you listen to both of them here in just a second, they almost sound a little bit alike as well.
That coach talk.
Exactly. We had a chance to go by David Crockett practice to talk to them about this upcoming big Musket Bowl game.
Yeah, so it's the Musket Bowl. Everybody loves the Musket Bowl. Probably the biggest crowd we play in front of every year. Both communities, this means a lot to. I've been on both sides of the rivalry, and neither community likes the other this week very much. So, but our kids know what's at stake. Obviously, a region championship and home field advantage throughout the playoffs is on the line. So, our kids understand what's at stake and expect to have a good week of practice and a good physical football game come Friday night.
It's just a big opportunity for us to play your rival team for the conference championship. They got a good defense, but we just got to control what we can control and come out here and practice hard and get ready for the game Friday.
I'm expecting a really good fight. They've always been a good team, and just that rivalry just gives you that extra adrenaline. So it's going to be a good game.
I think they do a good job mixing up their looks. They run a variety of fronts, 3-man, 4-man, 5-man front. So I think it's one of those things where you've got to prepare for all of it, and then based on what they do, we've got to go out and execute.
Win would mean all home games through playoffs and the conference championship, and that's what we came out here and worked all summer, running hills, sweating, and dying out here. That's what it means.
I mean, it means a lot. It gives, us kids, it's a game that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives. Stories that we can tell our kids. It's just a great feeling to come out here and have those types of games.
And he's right. This is one of those games where you talk about forever with your kids and your family, despite what is on the line as far as the conference is concerned and playoff ramifications. I mean, this is the game you want to win if you go to David Crockett and Daniel Boone. And, let's talk about Daniel Boone now. I mean, we've talked about this before. They might have the toughest schedule in the state, to be completely honest with you. Currently, they're at 2-5. But the good news about Daniel Boone, okay, if you are a Blazer fan, you're coming off a big win over Tennessee High last week.
That was huge. Just carrying that momentum into this week, that's what you really wanted. I mean, if they would have lost that game against Tennessee High, I think it would have been rough sledding a little bit. But you also bring up the tough schedule. I think the toughest part about that you don't see so much is most of these games are away. I mean, it's wild that all these games and that they talk about, are away, and then their first home game, obviously we brought this up before, is against CAK, and just being able to battle back and have this one, back at their place is going to be great. I mean, that place is going to be rocking. I think it's their third. Yeah, second.
Yeah, CAK was their first.
Oh yeah, I mean.
Well, did they play? They played
that's what I'm
Tennessee
saying.
High last week.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Right,
but either way, it's like that's your third home game.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest one yet. And it doesn't matter what these records are. It doesn't matter what's down. Looking forward, this is focused on this week with these two teams, and these fan bases are as well. That place can be rocking. We saw it last year during COVID. The place was absolutely packed, and that's what you love to see from high school football from this area. But I'm just kind of focusing on the game plan for them as well. You have Aiden Reiner, obviously a great tool on both sides of the ball. Luke Jenkins under center, he's also a great option as well. Hagen Edwards, he's a great running back, wide receiver type of slot option. He's got some speed as well. But as I mentioned before with David Crockett, this team loves to run the ball, and they got some big boys up front that love to do it. They love to get in the nasty areas. They love to get dirty, and they love to pound it down your throat. So, if they're able to do that, whatever team's being able to do that, not just Daniel Boone or David Crockett, whatever team is able to do that, the better of the other, if that makes sense, is going to be able to come out on top, because that's what this game really matters. It's going to be able to get in the dirty areas, and whoever wins that is going to walk away with that gun that we almost broke last year. But we're not going to look into that too much because that was the past.
You talked about Ryder. He's rushed for over 500 yards this year with 10 touchdowns. You talked about Luke Jenkins. He had 2 touchdown passes last week for 136 yards. So he had a really good game. And his receivers, Hagen Edwards and Landon Kirkpatrick, also having a big game as well. I mentioned they were 2-5 was the toughest schedule in the state. It's actually the third toughest schedule in the state. I had to check with my crack dad before I let that go. But it's also the third toughest schedule to date in the state. We had an opportunity to head out to Gray and Hale Stadium to talk to Jeremy Jenkins and his football team about the upcoming Musket Bowl.
Well, huge momentum, especially being at home, a conference game, next game, being your arch rival. It's at home. We've not played too many home games this year, so, it'll be a real good atmosphere. The winner is the one seed going into the playoff round, so, a lot at stake. We just got to come out and keep playing as hard as we can.
I think every Crockett week we're, ready to play anyways. But I think that definitely helps, showing that we have a chance to win conference. It just means that much more.
Because no matter, we don't care about a record. We don't look at that. We don't care about that we won last Friday now. We don't care. We're just looking on to next week, and we knew that even though we were 1-5, we can win the conference. So that's our main goal every year. So we're coming in it the same way we came into it last week. Play physical, dominate the line of scrimmage, and we'll win the game.
Physicality, is probably the most important thing, because that's what Crockett really strives on too, being a physical team, physical running game. So we've got to establish a line of scrimmage on both sides of it, and do a good job of tackling in space and tackling overall, and not giving up any big plays, and and get a hat on a hat. That's what we're going to try to do.
It's one of those I think everybody around the area puts on their calendar to watch. I look forward to every year. I think even the people that watch it look forward to every year. There's just something different about playing them. It's just a little bit extra than just football.
It would be amazing. We get a home playoff game, the one seed going into the playoffs. It'll be our second conference championship in the school history, and that's just gigantic. I mean, that's what we plan on doing every year, and a lot of years we've been right there, and to get it would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be amazing. And if you heard in the background, you heard Davey. I mean, you come on, man. I know you've been to their practices for 2 years now. You should know the words of both of these things. And Boone was man. You ought to know these songs now.
I know that one because I think last year, Prince Colley was our player of the week at that point, and I was there for almost the whole practice. I was like, yo, please tell me this is going to end. And now one of the coach goes, no, the whole time this whole week. I go, and they kind of made a note of it. I forgot what player it was. He goes, I bet we know this song better than the actual school. And I guarantee you that same way vice versa, because they have that thing going 5 days, the whole practice for 2 hours the whole week. So, I mean, it's like
blasting it.
It's crazy. Even the kid that was carrying the speaker, they're telling him to put it around there, and he goes, they kept on yelling at him. He goes, I can't hear. This song's blaring right now. And I'm like, Coach, you got to turn it down. At least you can't be having kids go deaf out here because of that song.
That is funny. All right, let's move on to game 2. One of my favorite rivalries is the Battle of Hawkins County. It's family, baby. Volunteer taking on Cherokee. And it's two teams that have been looking pretty good as of late, even though one of them didn't come away with a win the other day. But Cherokee and Volunteer, this time, they're going to be playing on the new carpet at Cherokee. Last year, they played on the new carpet at Volunteer. This is another one of those games where the record really doesn't matter. This is a game of pride, and who can have the pride of being the best of Hawkins County.
And I think Volunteer really showed that. They got a lot of momentum. I know they lost to Elizabethton last week, but really, they've been putting up some good fights, and I think we've seen that all year long. They got a lot of momentum with, Garrison Barrett in that offense. He's got a lot of firepower with them. He's got Carson Christian, Peyton Steele, those type of kids on the outside who's, got a great set of wheels on them, both of them. So if this offense can just get any type of momentum, I mean, when you're playing Elizabethton, you're probably not going to get a lot of momentum. I don't care who you are. I mean, that's just tough. So chalk that up as an L. But when you're, Volunteer and Jesse McMillan, I think we've seen it every single week. It doesn't matter if they're playing Dobbins, Bennett, Elizabethton, Cherokee this week. Jesse McMillan's going to get those boys riled up. And especially with this being a rivalry game, there's definitely a lot of energy at that practice, guaranteed this week.
And it should have been, because I want you to think about something. They are 1 year removed from ending a 12-game losing streak to Cherokee. I mean, the Chiefs has dominated this series for a long time. You're talking about Garrison Baird. I mean, you're right. The kid's thrown for almost 1,800 yards and 16 touchdowns so far this season. And the targets, Carson Christian, you just mentioned, and also Peyton Steele are two good targets for him. But a big win, I mean, for the Falcons. And I'm sure they're going into this contest hoping to make it 2 in a row. When you take a look at Cherokee, didn't start off too well this
No.
year. I mean, they really got a slow start, but, picked it up in their last game at home, got a big win. I'm thinking it was over Cosby or someone like that. Was able to pick up a big win. And with that win, I see a Cherokee team that's probably got a little confidence.
Exactly, and that's what you need in going into this game right now. And when really looking at their schedule, there's a couple of COVID games, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And you just got to chalk it up. You just got to, take the L and, forfeit, whatever it is. I still don't know what that is. But yeah, this Cherokee team obviously hasn't found the type of success that they wanted to this season. But as you mentioned, you take away the records this game, you take away the records tomorrow night, and it doesn't matter. It's going to be mano a mano. Records are 0-0. It doesn't matter because this is such a big game. And Cherokee is really going to rely on their running game. They have all season. Braden Collins is, really the man that sets the tone for this offense. But when you really look at last week's game against Mo West, it seemed like they were in it all 4 quarters, but then they kind of fizzled out towards the end. And, they really need to be diligent with the ball, and they really need to, punch it home and being able to, really get things going and get that offense going, because when they're able to do that and able to push the ball forward and get that running shooting attack going, they look really good. And I think that's going to be easier said than done against Volunteer. They're pretty physical as well. They got some, big boys up front as well in those first 2 levels. But yeah, they really need to just buckle down and make sure that they shut down this passing attack, which is obviously easier said than done.
One of the things, too, is it's a new season for Cherokee because they have a new head coach. So, obviously, there is a period of getting to know each other. And I think that took place at the beginning of the year. But I think now he's got this football team believing in what he wants to bring. I think this could be a really good game. I mean, obviously, like you just said, it doesn't matter. It's a rivalry. So both teams are going to come with their A game. And when you have games like that, you tend to lead towards the hometown team. So this should be a good game between between Volunteer and Cherokee. Game 3 for us. It's a game I wish that we could go ahead and eliminate right now, just tell you. And that is Dobbins Bennett hosting, or should I say, traveling to the Atomic City to take on the Oak Ridge Wildcats. Any other time, I'm all for this game. I can't wait for it to happen. I can't wait to give the DB coaches an earful, but I've been quiet this week. I've been quiet.
I think you've been quiet this whole year. Let's just be honest.
You got Dobbins Bennett coming into this game at 6-2. You got Oak Ridge coming in at 2-6. I mean, this is a Dobbins Bennett team. They got that bad taste out of their mouth from the Jefferson County loss a couple of weeks ago. Basically went on the road last week and dismantled William Blount.
And you brought up that Jefferson County game. You just kind of took the words right out of my mouth. And I think what they learned from that is you can't really overlook anyone. No games are trap games. This Oak Ridge team hasn't been the strongest, as I just mentioned. But that doesn't mean they're not putting up fights. I mean, they just lost to Carnes by a single score. They are riding a 3-game losing streak, so they're kind of backing themselves against the wall into this one. But, Dobbins Bennett offense, I don't know what to say, man. They're loaded with weapons. They've got so many kids that can make plays. I mean, it all starts with Jake Carson, the quarterback. You got Ishawn Graves in the backfield, Jonathan Gillespie, Ben Phillips, Hayden Schurer on the outside. I mean, so many weapons Carson can throw to. Then you can lean on Graves. And, I mean, this offense is just rolling. I mean, it's just kind of surprising sometimes when we see the games where they're scoring 14 or 21 points. They should be putting up 35, 42 points a game. But it just depends on, what their mindset is and what the kids, feel motivated with. So I'm not saying they're not motivated this season. I'm just saying that this offense, I feel like they got some untapped potential. And that sounds crazy because they did chalk up 528 total yards. But I think they can just run wild against anyone. And I mean, 21 points against William Blount. Obviously, this offense is carrying the load, but I haven't seen how this defense plays. I haven't been to a game yet. I'm kind of excited to see how that goes as the season, kind of carries on. But, it's pretty impressive when you look at what this defense has done last week. They didn't give up a first down in the second half until the fourth quarter. When you do that, and I'm not talking like, a minute into the fourth quarter. I think it was like 9 minutes into the fourth quarter or something like that, or 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's just remarkable, this Dobbins Bennett team, how they're able to bounce back. And, think about it. You got Jeff County loss, and you lost to Greenville. The 2 losses that obviously are pretty tough, and, especially Greenville with what they're doing.
Who hasn't this year, right? I mean, when you look at that. All right, let's talk about Oak Ridge, okay? Now, I'm going to be the Wildcat apologist for a moment, all right, if I may. Yeah, okay, I drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, I made the Kool-Aid, okay? I made the Kool-Aid, so I'm going to drink it right now. first of all, they got off to a horrible start. All right, and that's just a lot because it's just the way they played. Now, the last couple of games, they have played some of the best teams in the state. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they got beat by Greenville. As I just said, who doesn't? They put, 39-7 or 6 or something like that. Last week, they got beat by Carnes. Now, that's the first time Carnes has beaten them since 1985, okay? 1985.
You need to get back in their center.
I want you to think about that. I mean, I just left high school, but that's the last time that Carnes had beaten. And here's the thing. Carnes has the nation's leading running back on their football team, who already has over 2,000 yards so far this year.
I'll take Gudger any day of the week, baby.
I didn't say that. I didn't put him up. But we'll find out Mr. Football Time.
All right, let's go.
Who's being recruited by the University of Tennessee. So all I'm saying about these Wildcats is you can never tell a book by its cover, is what I'm saying.
I'm not taking anything away. Like I said, Carnes, that was a tough loss last week, single digits, but I mean, the thing that I kind of, obviously we haven't been able to watch these guys as close to, some of the other teams that we cover. But when you really look at the stats, just kind of looking at the notes right now, it's, they kind of rely on that passing attack a little bit with Hayden Tarwater and then Braden, I think it's Hayward. He's his top target. We shut Hayward down. I think it's going to be an end to that passing attack. But they do have Kendall Jackson in the backfield. That kid's an absolute unit as well. So they got some weapons. They can get the job done. They can put points up on the board. And as you mentioned, I wouldn't say they shut Greenville down. They contain them better than other teams have had.
Thank you.
I'll put it that way. I'll give you a compliment. That was a backhanded compliment.
I can't even believe you gave us a little praise.
I'll give you a backhanded compliment. But this Dobbins Bennett team, they have, I'm not going to say just as many weapons because I'm going to sound nuts if I say they have just as many weapons as Greenville because we've seen what Greenville does.
Exactly.
But they've got weapons. They've got guys they can throw the ball to. They got guys that can make plays. So Oak Ridge better buckle down and get in the seatbelt because it could be a long night if the defense doesn't show up.
Did you ever see the movie Harlem Nights? You've never seen that. Well, there's a part in Harlem Nights. But you got to see where you got like 2 or 3 guys with machine guns. And they were shooting at a guy, and he was shooting back with just one pistol. Okay, that's kind of what you were describing there. Just between the number of weapons Greenville has and everybody else. That's all I'm saying.
All right, maybe it just has like a revolver. Maybe it's a little more than a little pistol than like a little, maybe it's a little 6-shooter. Maybe it's got a little more pop than a normal pistol right there.
Wow.
I'm just saying that Dobbins Bennett, they can put up the points, so Oak Ridge would be ready for a shootout if they're going to keep up with them.
All right, we will. Everybody go by Big Ed's before you go to the game tomorrow night. Let's head to Southwest Virginia, and this one really bothers me because it's one of those games I hadn't figured out how we can get to on Friday night, and it might be the biggest game. It actually might be the biggest game of the entire night in both states. You got Abingdon taking on Ridgeview. I think both teams come into this game 6-1.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. Just a huge game. I mean, obviously, we talk about Abingdon because we honored their running back just this week as our player of the week, Houndshell, who had 7 touchdowns last week.
School record, man.
Cole Lambert had a number of touchdowns. He could have easily been the player of the week as well. I mean, you take a look at this Abingdon team. And right now, it's pretty stout.
They're hitting on all cylinders right now. This Falcons team is looking good at the right time of the season, on that back half of the season. That's what you want. You want plenty of momentum. But so is Ridgeview. I mean, they're 6-1. Now, you look at what they did last week against Battle. Battle's obviously not having the greatest season. I mean, they're winless. I don't know how we can sugarcoat that. But, Ridgeview did come out a little bit slow. The offense started slow. They kind of turned it around a little bit. You're seeing right here from these highlights right now. Battle did kind of pounce on a couple of mistakes. But Ridgeview did turn it around pretty quick. I was walking by the sidelines, and some kid goes, "You remember me?" I go, "Yep." He goes, "Well, right now, we're sucking right now, and I can promise you, we're gonna give you some highlights." And right there, they started doing it. So I mean, this Ridgeview team is good. They've got plenty of weapons. They can easily get things done on the offensive side. But you can't be coming out slow against Abingdon. I promise you that much. If they come out slow like they did last week, they're going to be down 14-21 rip before you can realize it. So we brought up Houndshell for Abingdon. Obviously, he's a great running back, an amazing running back that just set the school record. Bishop Cook joins him in the backfield as well. He's a great option as well. Peyton McClanahan on the outside. He's a great wide receiver with some great hands and amazing size as well. 6'4", I think, 6'5", maybe. 200 pounds, so he can get up there and grab that rock. You brought up Cole Lambert, but this offense is truly dominant, and I think hats off, really, and I say this a lot, but I truly mean it with teams that just dominate the offensive line of scrimmage, and this is the Abingdon offensive line. Now, obviously, their names don't come out in the paper, so we can't give props where props are given, but I can promise you, as a whole, as a unit, this Abingdon offensive line is amazing. They're big, they're fast, they've got, they're able to pull quick when they're able to run the rock, and when Houndshell and Cook want to get to the outside, they're right there setting the tone and setting that edge. So this Abingdon team is really good. I think Ridgeview and Abingdon, I'm not going to, do expectations or, do any scores or anything like that, but I do expect a high-scoring game in this one.
Well, you've got as we take a look at Ridgeview, as I mentioned, both teams coming in at 6-1, but you've got a Ridgeview team that only allows 11.3 points. 11.3 points a game. Okay, that's not a lot of points. I mean, you just talked about Houndshell, 7 touchdowns, 226 yards, and then you throw in a 270 and 3 touchdowns by Cole Lambert. I mean, they got a number of players that could play, but Caden Gibson and Cannon Hill and Shannon Deal, the defensive guys for Ridgeview have been really strong. I mean, this is you got a lot of firepower, but I got a feeling this is going to be a low-scoring game.
Oh, all right. But all right, now you got to flip this coin, though. Like, offenses are just going back and forth, because Ridgeview has a lot of offensive talent, too. I mean, they're pretty good. They can put up the points, obviously, against last week. They put up 50 against Battle, but you do bring up the defense, and hats off to the defense because Abingdon, did get it into I wouldn't say it a shootout because obviously the final score says different, but they actually, were trailing against Gate City last week at one point in the first half, in the second quarter actually. But I think Ridgeview, what they have on their side is they're young, but they're experienced. They returned 10 starters from the defensive side. That's what you love to see as a coach. Offensively, all these guys have been making plays too as well. So,
and one of the freshmen, Ryan O'Quinn, did I get his name right?
Yes.
The kid's thrown 13 touchdowns. He's a freshman. And then you got Brandon Beavers. He has 10 touchdowns. You're right. I mean, we're talking about him this year, but sometimes we're going to be talking about him again for the next couple of years.
We're going to be making a lot of trips up there, I tell you what, for previews and stuff. So, but, you got to think about that. This team's 6-1, lost the state's best running back, possibly of all time. Obviously he was, however many yards away he was from breaking the yards record. But they just lost probably the best offensive weapon, one of the state's best offensive weapons last year, and they're not even missing a beat. Actually, they might be even playing better, and that's the wild thing because you give it off to the running back or you give it off to the wide receiver, and obviously when there's ever playmakers on the field, you want to hit them. But with so much depth on this team, they're loaded. These guys can make plays. Obviously, you got Ryan O'Quinn, who's under center, but he's got it. Brandon Beavers, his favorite target, but there's other guys that can get it done. Cannon Hill, he's a great running back. He stepped into those shoes great, and for him to be able to do what he's done this season, it's incredible. I think that was one of the teams where Ridgeview kind of maybe got under the radar and overlooked a little bit, and I think Coach might agree with that, is that this team really didn't. The team itself had high expectations. I don't think us as media members had high expectations with who they lost from last year's team, but now that's coming back to bite us. So, hats off to both these teams because they both lost great running backs, and now they're bouncing back and both have identical 6-1 records.
So can we agree we've got experience against youth in this game Friday? Experience with Abingdon.
Experience versus experienced youth, though, because like I said, Ridgeview has 10 returning starters on defense.
Is that really a thing? Experienced youth.
Here's the thing, though. If Ryan O'Quinn, when he's a sophomore, he's experienced, but he's youthful. Bam. See, it is a thing, baby. It is a thing. I'm telling you.
I'm going to have to stop paying my therapist. I can just get help.
Exactly. Hey, I bring the juice, baby. Whatever you need, I got you. I got therapy.
Ooh. All right, let's head to our last game of the night, game number 5, and that's going to be Gate City at John Battle. Yeah, I know, folks. These are two teams that have not done much this season. Gate City has shown life. They're 2-4 on the year, but John Battle, This is a program that is struggling at 0-6. Let's take a look at Gate City. Blue Devils last week piling up 334 yards against Abingdon. Okay, that's a good offensive day. So Gate City, even though 2-5 or 2-4, you can tell they're getting better each week.
And that's the thing with Gate City. Like I said before, they had a 27-21 halftime lead. I mean, against Abingdon. So if they were able to buckle down defensively in the second half, maybe that game goes a different way. So, Gate City definitely has the firepower, excuse me, on the offensive side, but it really does start with their running backs. Carson Jenkins, I feel like week in and week out, I always send you text messages saying, this kid's going to be the player of the week, or at least he's a nominee. Unfortunately, he hasn't won. But if he comes out against Battle and puts up 400 yards, who knows? Maybe we'll be out there next week. But a couple weeks ago, and this kind of astonished me because I was looking at the stats, they rushed for 408 yards against Lee, and that's all they did. That's total yards was rushing. So they didn't even pass it for a positive amount of yards. Or maybe they didn't even pass it at all. I don't know. It would be hard to believe if they passed it that game or if they didn't pass that game. But to be able to get 408 total yards on the ground, that's pure dominance on the offensive front, on the offensive line. And, being able to, do what they did defensively against Lee, that was also incredible. But Brady Edwards, Carson Jenkins, those are the two kids you need to stop if you're Battle. Now, if you're Battle, I guess get pissed off. I mean,
well, that is your advice.
I don't know, man. They have allowed at least 41 points, and they've only scored 13 all season. You got to get angry at some point. I know you're probably down in the dumps. You're sad, frustrated, whatever you may be. Come out there and get angry.
Yeah.
Do something, man.
Yeah.
Get some juice flowing. I'm not trying to dog the kids right now, and I'm not trying to, bring anyone down, but it's like you don't want to keep on getting embarrassed. 50-0 last week at your homecoming game against Ridgeview. Granted, Ridgeview's a good team, but it's like, at what point do you get frustrated? At what point do you say enough's enough? We're going to come out with so much intensity that they're not going to be able to match it, and that's what you have to do. And is this game at John Battle or Gate City?
It's at John Battle.
Okay, another home atmosphere, another home crowd. And no matter what the record is, every single time I go to John Battle this season, it's packed. And that's the type of juice I like to see. That's the type of energy. They always bring the energy. Student section, cheerleaders, fans, announcers, it didn't matter, the coaches. But that's the type of intensity you need to bring on the field. You can't be sitting here getting rolled over, putting up 13 points all season long. Now, obviously, do they have the most talented players? It seems like they don't. But at some point, you can flip the switch. You can turn every single week is an opportunity. Every single Friday night is an opportunity. They had their chances last week against Ridgeview to get an early upper hand. They unfortunately couldn't punch it through. But right now, here's your opportunity to stop Gate City, get a home win, and give something your home crowd can cheer about. Because, like I said, obviously what's happening isn't working. So do what you've been doing right defensively, turnovers, offensively. Make sure you're winning the battle at the line of scrimmage. Whatever you're doing right, whatever you need to build on that. But just bring some type of tenacity or some type of frustration or anger, man. I'm about to go up there and just, knock some skulls loose or something. Let's go. If they want me to run out of the tunnel with them, I'll get them going, baby.
Oh, do you have any eligibility?
Unfortunately not. But hey, I could, come on, sneak it in. You could throw a jersey on me. They wouldn't know.
Yeah. Until they had to keep coming out there with the trainers like the Tennessee and Ole Miss game last week. Because you got there laid out. Gate City, John Battle, you're right. It'll be an opportunity for John Battle to possibly get off the schneid, as you said earlier, by picking up their first win of the season. They come into this game 0-6, where you have Gate City at 2-4. So this would be that opportunity. All right, folks, thanks for watching the Prep Football Preview, brought to you by FriendshipCars.com. Make sure to watch us again every Thursday night for a preview of that week's games. Obviously, it will be Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. It is Week 10 in Tennessee, Week 9 in Southwest Virginia. Don't forget about Touchdown Friday night, tomorrow night. Check out the highlights of these games and much, much more tomorrow night. As for our engineer, Slater Teague, pushing the buttons. He's Jesse Crawl. I'm Kenny Hawkins saying thanks and have a great night.